Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're all doing good. Today I've got a very special guest. I'm joined by Alex, who a lot of you will know from the different Knock podcast, and he also is on the Canon podcast too. But he did come on my channel a little while ago, and we're saying off air it's been a while. I think the last time he came on was when Ramsdale's dad sort of spoke out about him on the Highbury squad. So it's been a
Yeah,
while. Thank you, Alex, for coming on today. How are you doing?
absolute pleasure. Thank you for being here, and thanks for the patience. I was struggling to get in the recording studio, so I appreciate your patience. Yeah, really excited. That feels like a long time ago. That Ramsdale situation, long time ago.
Yeah, it does, and
Yeah,
it's just really nice to have you on today. And I feel like for me, I'm sort of glad the international break's here because I feel like I need a bit of a break. Arsenal are just back, and the Brighton game and everything that's happened. It's sort of nice to have time to reflect. And obviously, you guys did send some questions for Alex. I thought we could do that first,
sure.
because some of them were quite interesting. And the first one actually was, how do you expect us to do in the Champions League? Because there are a lot of tough teams as well coming up. So do you think we'll do better than last season? Where do you sort of stand on that?
Yeah, it just feels like such a long way off as well. It's
Yeah,
yeah, it's I don't know. I mean, I think the new sort of format will play a part in terms of maybe we see some different players in there, different sort of travel experience and all that sort of stuff. I don't really know. I mean, I hope that we're going to learn from last year and sort of that experience. I was there at the Porto game, and you go through those sort of moments as a team, and the core of that team is still there, and we hope is going to be there for years to come. So you sort of hopefully they're going to grow together. But I don't know. I always feel when you're sort of chasing that first Champions League in the same way that City and PSG are doing at the moment or whatever, there is just this feeling of like it's just going to take some time. I don't know why. I'm not sure there's a particular science to it. I couldn't explain it, but for some reason, I've always felt that teams who are going after that first Champions League, it feels like it just takes a long time before it happens, and then the kind of the duck is broken or whatever the phrase is, or the monkey's off the back, and it's like, okay, cool, we can sort of free ourselves up. I do expect us to go through difficult periods, to be honest, in the Champions League. I don't
yeah,
think. I think maybe people are going to be going, okay, we've had that experience last year. We got to the semi-finals. We're going to get to a final. It's going to be a total breeze. The Champions League, I don't care who you are. You're Real Madrid. Yeah, what the situation last year in Madrid where Joselu scoring in the 90th minute. Even if you're winning it, you're gonna, that Mikel phrase, you're gonna suffer. So
yeah,
I just I think I would love to be more optimistic. My phrase last year was I'd love us to have a good, it was like a good showing, and that's obviously open to interpretation. It depends what you mean by that. If I feel we've thrown it away, I'll be annoyed. But to be honest, the
yeah,
Premier League's my main.
yeah,
Some people will be upset at that, but I don't really care. Like, the Premier League's my main focus. The Champions League is something that feels like it's over there. If we can do
yeah,
something great, but the Premier League is here because the Champions League just it's like chasing a dream. It's like yeah, you can
yeah.
be there. Let's try, but like let's not pin all our hopes on it. We can control more of the Premier League, I think.
Yeah, it feels like, in the Champions League, I think at the moment, I think it would be unrealistic to say right now that we could win it. Like, I don't think we're there yet. And
Mm,
like with the league, like you said, I mean, last season when we got knocked out, I was upset, but I wasn't too bothered if I'm being honest, because I know with the league we've got to really focus on that. Like last season we were so close. So I think we could do better this season. I reckon we could maybe get to semi-finals. I think the quarterfinals around that stage is probably where we are at right now. But I do think the league, because we're getting so close, I think I
mm.
would like us to focus on that. But I know there's a lot of fans that know that we've never won the Champions League and will want us to win it. But
Of course. But do you not feel like I feel like we've almost built a team to win the league?
yeah,
Do you know what I mean? Like it feels like we've constructed a team that's going to be able to, go out and win a Premier League. I think the Champions League just throws up so many things. You can't predict it, but you can go, okay, there's the top team. So we can, we have a plan for Man City, we have a plan for Liverpool, we have a sense of all those things. We see how they play every single week. I don't know, the Champions League, it's and that's why it's the best competition, because it's just
yeah,
so kind of like it's so kind of random, and you have these amazing stories. Obviously, I think the one that comes to mind for me always is watching that Liverpool comeback at Anfield. Like that
yeah,
doesn't happen in the Premier League. It's just not the same thing. But they are, they're very, very different experiences. And yeah, for me, it's like I would love it to happen. Of course, I think we'll do a bit better, But I think this expectation that, as you said, because we're capable, we should be able to
Yeah.
do it. It's a different thing. It's a different thing.
Yeah, I think in time we can definitely get there, but I think, like you said, the squad we have now is a squad that is capable of winning the league. But in the Champions League, it's a little bit different. Because I think if we come against like a Madrid or a few other teams that are quite tough, I know we've got PSG coming up as well, but I think we're good enough to get far. But I think I'd Robbie rather us win the league, and I think we're so close, like you said there. So it's going to be interesting, but it's just nice for me. I think it's just great to be back in the Champions League again. It's
Yeah.
nice to see the players sort of get that, because I know when we've struggled in recent years, like Martinelli, Saka, they've sort of earned the right to be there now, and it's a shame that they've not had to play there like the way Foden has at Man City all the time. So
Yeah.
I think it's just nice to see them play there.
Yeah.
And I have got a question about Martinelli, because at the moment Martinelli is a bit of a player that everyone's sort of judging and sort of talking
Yeah.
about. Someone's asked, as a fan base, when will we stop making excuses for Martinelli's subpar performances? And then the other question is, if Sterling plays well, could Martinelli's time be up at Arsenal as like a first choice player in the left wing?
Ooh.
I know I saw that, I was like, wow.
Only 9:30.
I know, Jesus.
um. Okay. Okay. Martinelli. Um. My stance on this has been the same really for quite a
Mm,
while, and it's this: it's Martinelli is going to be a brilliant football player, absolutely no doubt. But the problem is we have a generational talent on the other side. Like we have
yeah,
arguably the best player to ever come out of the academy. I'm not saying he is, but it's an argument. You could say Saka, okay,
yeah,
Ashley Cole, or whoever it might be. Like you put up against them, but I think he's definitely up there. One of the best players of the Emirates era, one of Arsenal's potentially great players. You know, I'm looking at this team sort of outside of Saka as quickly on someone like a Saliba, and I'm like, you could leave here as the best centre back we've ever had. I'm not saying you are now. I'm saying if you go on, you win things, and you leave at 32 or whatever to go to Madrid. Let's hope that's when he leaves rather than the next few years, and you win everything there is to win. What's stopping you in 10 years' time being considered the greatest Arsenal centre back? Like I don't see how that path isn't there. So that's what we're dealing with.
mm,
That's what we're dealing with. That's the level we're dealing with. And when Martelli came in, we were looking at Arsenal as, well, at that time, we were looking to try and get in the top four, whatever.
yeah,
And he obviously surprises us. And he has the sort of the 22-23 season where we have a surprise title challenge. And then we've got to build on that. And I just think it's one of those things that Martinelli, I think, will get there, but his development is just going to take a little bit more time. Saka's
yeah.
already world class and performing at that level every single week, and it's not fair to expect him to get there. So there's the kind of contextualizing for Martinelli. And the question is not, is Martinelli a good player? It's can Arsenal wait for him to get there? Because he will get there. What he's doing is normal. He's doing a
Yeah.
normal player progression where players get better over time, and at 28, 29, they're at their peak, and whatever. And then we come to the player himself in terms of what he needs to improve on. I think there's a number of things where he accesses the box. I talk about this all the time. Being more efficient in his touches. Sometimes I think he's it's like that thing of I was watching a clip of Paul Pogba this morning, and it's then he always knows his next pass. He always knows the next action, where it's going to go. It's coming into his feet, and he's already got the picture. I think Martinelli sometimes he waits for the ball to get to him and then decides, and it just shaves off those couple of seconds. I think for me, when watching him live, I saw him in the Emirates Cup,
Mm.
or whatever it's called. Emirates Cup, was it called the Emirates Cup?
Yeah, I
Anyway,
think so.
I think so. I can never tell these days. I was watching him in that, and I was going, there's a sense that I don't know whether you back yourself sometimes.
Mm,
So I think there's probably a confidence issue there as well. Getting him inside, there's a whole conversation about, but I think what we sometimes do is we reduce it down to we just need to platform Martinelli. We just need to platform Martinelli. That's not the only thing. The best players in the world, which it's not fair to ask him to be yet, perform week in, week out, no matter what the circumstances. Messi was moved around. I'm not comparing to Messi, but the best players that you can put him false nine, you can put him on the right, you can put him on the left, you can put him further up, you can put him deeper. He'll perform. And Martinelli, it feels like we have all these conversations about how to platform him, which tells you where he's at, which is fine. But
mm.
then is that enough to go and win a title, to go and win Champions Leagues, to go and win Premier Leagues? At the moment, I don't think it is. But what I would love is Martinelli to show me, do you know what? I'm going to take this guy on the outside, or I'm going to
Yeah.
start accessing the box in a different way, or I'm going to show you, get off, here's a 30-yard screamer, or I'm going to show you, you know, unbelievable pacing behind and decision making, or I'm going to get my first touch off quicker, whatever it is. I would love that. I'm an Arsenal fan.
Mm.
It's like the whole conversation about Fabio Vieira, you know, that we have. It's like, I remember people saying, "Oh, you want Fabio to fail because you said you don't particularly think he's a great player." No, I'm an Arsenal fan. If Fabio Vieira is
Yeah,
good,
exactly.
Arsenal are good. I want Martinelli to be good, but we have to face reality. So, very long-winded way of saying, yeah, I think there's a conversation around Martinelli, and I'm going to go bold. I wouldn't be surprised if Martinelli was the first like big sale of this Arsenal project, like the first
Yeah.
60, 70 million pound sale. I would love to be proved wrong, but right now, if you said to me who's going to be the first big sale to make way for something else, I wouldn't. I put Martinelli in that conversation along with a few others.
Yeah, I think, I mean, when someone asked me last year about the future of Martinelli and potentially moving him on, you know, if his performances are still if he's still going to struggle at the time, it's quite a surprise. But now this season, I think these are the conversations that will pop up because I think for me, you know, the season has just started, and I think we've got to give him a bit of time. I mean, obviously, it's quite tough with Sterling coming in as well. Will
Oh yeah.
he sort of? It's going to be interesting, sort of how much football he gets to play as well. But I think with Martinelli, I think we need to be a bit more patient with him. But I do also get the point, like you said, when you're sort of going to win the league, you've got to have, you know, amazing performances a lot, like, especially when Man City are there. At the moment, Liverpool are actually doing really well as I know people have sort of wrote off Liverpool a little bit, but I think, yeah, Man City have started off really well, and I think we've done good, but I just think, you know, the Brighton game, it just sort of we need to pick ourselves back up from there. But it was interesting actually because Trossard did start, and I was happy Arteta did that, but then I realised why he doesn't always start and he's
Mm.
maybe better off the bench. But with Sterling, do you think that he's going to be more of a starter? Do you think that because I know a lot of us have spoken about how it's good to have backup for Saka because when Saka's a bit burnt out and he needs a bit of a rest, it's good to have that rotation. But do you think we'll see Sterling play on the left as well? What sort of yeah? Just talk to me about your overall thoughts about Sterling as well.
I think there's a conversation about how Arteta integrates players, and I think we're seeing it
Mm,
with Calafiori. I think we would have seen it with Marino. Um, we didn't really see it with Rice because that's a different level of talent. But like, I think most players, he takes a little bit of time to integrate them. You think about the treatment of Saliba, even Gabriel at the start. There's just like a
yeah.
little bit of time where he's sort of pulling you in and out of the team. I think we'll see that again with Sterling, where I think he'll mostly start from the bench for now.
Mhm.
And if he performs and if he comes on, he affects games, and Arteta likes him, he's doing what he wants, then he'll probably he has the quality to start. And this is, you know, this is a big marker for Martinelli. This is Arteta saying to him, look, I brought in someone who for you know for the time being anyway is going to challenge you. Can you step up to that level? I think personally, it's great to have him here because as you mentioned, he can support Saka. Obviously,
Yeah.
Saka's not in doubt, so it is that left hand side. I don't love him on the touchline on the left in the way we're using Martinelli.
Mhm.
Well, in the way we have used Martinelli in certain games, in that sense of that sort of right out wide, literally like sort of chalk on my boots touchline player. He can do that. But for me, we did some scouting for the Cannon podcast. I love him a little bit further inside when he can dribble, when he can carry, when we can
Mm.
slalom players or whatever, get into the box, win fouls, all that sort of stuff. That's where you get the most out of Sterling. On the right, he gets to the touchline more than Saka, so it's like a different option. Saka obviously wants to come inside, and Sterling's strong-footed on the right. On the left, he wants to come inside, but yeah, I don't love him out
Yeah.
there. He can get a little bit isolated. So I think if we are to play Sterling, there's a sense for me that there might be a difference with how we use maybe your Calafiori. Maybe he's going to be a bit more on the overlap. Again, I don't love that. Marino might be able to rotate out there. That makes a little bit more sense to me.
Yeah.
We're going to see a number of options. I just think it's going to take it will have to evolve. Honestly, right now, I bet Arteta doesn't know. I bet he thinks, the same thing as when Havertz came in. I think he gave an interview. He said, "Look, there's three positions, and we'll see." I think there's this weird. Now, Arteta said to people that he wasn't sure about Havertz, and I think that's how he signs players. I really do believe that.
Yeah.
He goes, I can see you in a number of positions. There's things you can do, there's things you can't do, and let's see. So yeah,
Yeah.
I honestly think right now Arteta doesn't know.
Yeah, I mean, I think with Sterling, like, I know it's quite interesting. A lot of fans like him, happy here, and then there's a big chunk of fans that aren't really sure. I think I'd probably say that I'm not sure, but I'm not going to judge him until he's properly played and
Yeah.
had a good amount of games because we've seen it with Havertz, when he came in he got judged quickly, and then you've seen over time that he's been a very important player for us. So, I think with Sterling, like you said, I don't think he'd be a starter really, unless that his performances warrant that. And
Mm.
I think like we've seen with Calafiori, he's not really played a full game. We've started to gradually bring him in, which is good. And to be fair, Timber has deserved to start, and Timber's done great. So it's really good to have these options. And yeah, I think with Sterling, it's going to be interesting how he does. I really do want him to do well here. And yeah, I never thought he'd come to Arsenal.
Did you see the training pictures of
Yeah,
Sterling? He looks absolutely knackered, and
I
that's the
know.
thing
Yeah,
we forget is
mm,
that the level of training at Arsenal will be absolutely unbelievable. I'm not saying it's not obviously it's a professional football club at Chelsea, but with the amount of churn and change and how Sterling feels in the squad, there will be a step up in terms of the fitness levels and the things he's being asked to do by Arteta. He's obviously worked with him before, knows the player inside out. There's going to be a little bit more attention to detail. He's also got these couple of weeks while players are off on internationals to work with Arteta. So there's
yeah.
going to be a bit of a runway. So I don't expect it to, just drop in and immediately start. I think there will just be some time.
I think it's good as well because he's worked with Arteta as well when he was
Mm,
at Man City. So I think that's probably a good thing to know that they know each other really well. But
mm.
yeah, I think this is the good time really to sort of see that him getting training. It's very weird seeing him in an Arsenal top. Like
Yeah.
it feels really weird. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think it's a good thing that we've got him, and I just really hope he has a good season. And I wanted to ask you actually a bit about the midfield because obviously the Brighton games happened. That's sort of in the past now, and we look ahead. We've got Spurs coming up after the international break. I wanted just to ask you about the lineup, especially the midfield, because I think obviously Partey isn't a player you can rely on, but I know at the moment he would probably be the player you'd want to pick. I mean, we've got Jorginho as well, but I know the Spurs game, I mean, Spurs haven't done too great. I mean, I know we didn't do too great against Brighton, but we've actually done okay to start off. Um, but when you play those games, form can go out the window a little bit. You
Mm.
you just don't know who's going to be the better team on the day. But how do you feel about Rice not being there? And I know Rice, if we're being honest, he hasn't been great when we've started the Premier League, and I do think he's exhausted. He's obviously played a lot for the Euros, so we have to understand that. But just how do you feel about the whole situation and the sort of the midfield changing as well?
Well, just to start with Spurs, I quite like the idea of Jorginho.
Mhm.
Reason being, I know he hasn't played in. Has he played at all? Does he even have minutes?
I don't think he has.
I'm not sure he
I don't
has. Yeah,
remember him playing.
might not have been in the squad once. Can't remember. Anyway, but yeah, obviously he's Jorginho is on the fringes of the squad, and that's fine. He probably will go next summer, and that's cool. But he's an important member for now, and
Yeah,
he can add so much. The reason I'd go for Jorginho is I think Spurs from the game at White Hart Lane it, it's basically a gamble of what they think we'll do. But I think Jorginho can handle both situations. And what I mean by that is if they step onto us, I trust Jorginho's short passing in like deep build up to get onto us and then go in behind. But also, if they're not stepping onto us, I trust him to dictate the game and have the tempo a little bit
yeah,
more and sort of make the right passes and sort of build us up slowly and break them down. With a Partey, I think if it's going to be more of a transitional game, he's somewhat sort of somewhere in the middle. And if obviously you get the physical aspect, but for me at the moment, Partey is so unpredictable in terms of what you're going to
yeah,
get out of him. Jorginho, at least you go, you put some legs alongside him. Maybe you put Kai Havertz, or maybe you could put Thomas Partey alongside him. But
yeah,
Partey in the lone six without a Declan Rice worries me. That really worries me at the moment, out of possession. So yeah, maybe you could play a pivot with Jorginho and Partey. Probably they both equal themselves out. There's enough there to deal with sort of stuff out of possession. It's no one's saying it's ideal. Obviously, ideal would be Declan Rice, but I think that's probably somewhere and Marino.
Yeah,
But that's what it is. Yeah, I mean, on the midfield situation overall, I think we're waiting for Marino and Rice, obviously, to come in, and I think that will help a lot.
yeah,
I think that's a really great balance of someone who's players who are, especially Marino, is really efficient on the ball, great passer, very facilitative, will allow other players to sort of just be themselves, have more touches, etc. I think it allows Rice a little bit deeper. I mean, obviously, there's been some conversations about Rice and what his best position is, and is he good enough, and all these sorts of stuff. And it's kind of just people online bored in an international break. But a couple of things I do feel. I think there is this sort of sense that Rice isn't the perfect six, or there's people who don't like him as a six. I think the problem is it depends what you mean by six, and a lot of people mean Sergio Busquets. They
mm,
mean someone who's going to dictate the game from deep, turn on a dime, flick the ball over your head. It's not Rice. It's not who he is. But if you pair him with a more high touch eight, if you pair him with an Odegaard who can drop in the pivot and wriggle his way out of things, that is the perfect defensive screen, and that's someone who can play progressive passes brilliantly and switch the ball and do all those things he used to do for West Ham with a bit of space in the game in front of him.
yeah,
If you're asking him to receive with back to goal in that Jorginho way and pass you in deep and do those sort of flicks around the corner, that's not Rice. But it's defining what you mean by six and what you want out of a six.
yeah,
Do you mean Sergio Busquets? Do you mean Rodri? Do you mean Kovacic? Like which six are you after? It's not one position. The six. It's played in so many different ways. So, yeah, I will say I was shocked by his performance against Morgan Rogers. That was
mm,
a real bit of information that I haven't seen Rice done like that before. My working theory is I think Rice, when he's stopping you face on or from the side, is world class. I think if he's coming from behind, you can shrug him off a little bit easier. That's probably true of all players, but that's what I saw Morgan
yeah,
Rogers doing. I was pretty shocked by that, by how he got run through. To be honest, I've not seen that happen before. Players have off days though; it happens. Yeah, I think these things will be resolved when Rice and Marino comes back. I think that will be a really balanced midfield. Um, yeah, and I think probably for North London, I'd go for North London derby. I'd go for Jorginho.
yeah. I think Jorginho party. I think that would be the safe option, really. I think that's an option that I think Arteta would do, and I think I'd do it really because I like Jorginho a lot, like you said. But I think if we're looking next year, he probably will be moved on. But I think for now, I think he's a good squad player to have. He's good to come in. I think I always liked him and Rice together. I think that he's got that calmness that we sort of need sometimes. And yeah, Partey, like you said, he's very inconsistent. Like some days he'll do really well, and other days he'll be dead sloppy, and it's not the
Between
part.
actions,
Yeah,
he'll play a
it's
perfect pass and then lose it 2 seconds later.
yeah, it's really weird with Partey. He's honestly like is. I mean, to be fair, I think he's improved and he's getting better as games are going on. But he's just very inconsistent. He does like a game against Spurs, you won't know what party you're gonna get. But
Mm.
I think I wanted to ask you about the sort of the attacking players you would start because we obviously know Saka will be starting and I presume Havertz. But on the left, who would you start? Because I always say, if we need someone to come on, I think Trossard's that player. But we also know Martinelli hasn't been scoring or hasn't his end product has been a little bit poor at times. I mean, we've got Sterling as well. I don't think Arteta's just going to throw Sterling in there. But who do you think would be the best option to play on the left?
It's at the stadium, isn't it? It's at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I think because it's there, they're going to step onto us. So I'd rather have someone who's a bit more of a threat on the transition. So I'd rather go with Martinelli. Again, if
Hmm.
it's not working at half time and we've pinned them in and we feel like the game's going that way, then I'd go for a Trossard. But
Yeah.
with how high they push their fullbacks, with the pace that they have in Van der Ven, I'd be looking at a Martinelli to sort of challenge that. I also, just quickly going back, I said this in sort of our preview, I think, on the Canna podcast about sort of what we want from the season. I'd love Arteta to spring a couple of surprises. I'd
Yeah.
love like a game like this to have like one area. Like, do you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
just to
Yeah, I'd
just
love
to
that.
chuck something in, maybe at halftime, and maybe that's the wrong answer, and people go, no, not one area, whatever. For the North London Derby, you crazy? Well, that's the point of surprises. They've got to be surprising to be a surprise. maybe not one area, but I'd love this season for Arteta to spring a couple of changes and do things that the managers won't expect. I I think you can almost always bet on Arteta to make the safe, sensible option. And look, 9 times out of 10, he's right. But
Yeah.
the 1 time out of 10, I don't know. So maybe this is the game
Yeah.
for one area to come in from the start, or to come in at half time, or to I don't know to not necessarily to play with any other, not to do something stupid, but to do something that is high quality and something that Spurs won't expect. I'd be interested in that. Moving Saka over to the left, or it's just something silly. I'm gonna not gonna come up with anything on the spot here, but yes,
Yeah.
something like that, especially in a game where they will be expecting us to take the conservative option. They will be expecting Jorginho and Havertz. They'll be expecting, I think, Jorginho, Havertz, Odegaard. And I'd love us to do something
Yeah.
different, and they'll expect Martinelli, Havertz, Saka. But why not do something different? Maybe today's not the day, but I'd love to see that at some point, because I think you can always bank on Arteta doing something sensible, basically.
Yeah, I think, like we said, we sort of know what lineup we're going to see probably. I mean, other than the left, I mean, Martinelli might come in, but we know what we're going to expect. Like you
Mm,
said, he's quite safe. And I always say, I mean, Northern Derby might not be the game for this. Maybe the Bolton game is the game you could try these things. But I think I'd always admire if Arteta tried something new. It didn't work out, but at least you could say at least he's experimenting. He's actually trying
yeah.
new things. I mean, I've always wondered what Zinchenko would be like in the midfield. I wouldn't really do that for the game against Spurs because I don't want to risk it. I
Mm,
mean, Zinchenko is part of this team now, and I presume that he's going to be here throughout the season. And
yeah.
I think defensively, a lot of us have our worries about him. But do you think Arteta should give him a chance at midfield to play? Because I know we're not really going to see him much at left back with Timber, Calafiori, unless Arteta has to throw him in there.
Personally, no, because I
Mhm.
don't think his second ball quality is good enough. I don't think he's got the running power. I don't love him in the final third. I love him deeper, to be honest.
Yeah.
But again, it's like we were saying. So, if you know, ultimately, a surprise has to be surprising. So whether it's Trossard at left day, or whatever you want to pick, I just think, yeah, there's this sort of, I don't know, everything is kind of everything is a possibility. So if Arteta can make it work, if in a midfield if Erdegaard's out for a week and he goes, right, I'm going to play Zinchenko right 8, people will go, that's mental, mate. You would never do that. Exactly.
Yeah, exactly,
Exactly.
that's
It's
the
a
point, yeah.
surprise. We're interested in the surprise, and actually Zinchenko with the left foot in the kind of Erdegaard role, I'd be interested. I'd 100% be interested. I think in the left 8, sorry,
Yeah.
on the right 8, I think in the left 8, I don't see that as it's currently played. But look, this is the thing, and when you're more resilient as a team, when you have a brilliant base, you can afford to be a little bit more fluid and do different things. And again, it's not to be silly or throw games away or whatever, but if you genuinely believe there's a competitive advantage, if say Arteta believes they're going to play Basuma and he struggles over his left shoulder, why not do something with that? It's we're looking to find something. And I just think it's, everything's called mental until it works, right? Havertz a centre forward. Why are we doing that? Havertz, Bukayo Saka going from a left back to, why is he playing right wing? Oh, it's working. Everything's called stupid until it works. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
exactly, yeah.
let's try something. At some point, maybe the North London derby is not right, but why not? Let's try something.
Yeah, I think it'd be good to see a lot of the young players, like you said. I mean, we've got Bolton coming up in the EFL Cup, and I think we want to take these cups seriously. I've said we've got to, win a trophy this season, but I think it's a great opportunity to experiment, to give players a rest as well. And I do want to see the young players have a more of a chance this season because we've seen them throughout pre-season and they've been very exciting to watch. And yeah, it'd be interesting to see if Arteta does sort of do anything differently. I do think we're going to continue to see this sort of lineup. I mean, I think the game that I'm more worried about is when we play Man City because we've got them coming up as well. We've got a lot of tough fixtures, and that's why I was a bit gutted that Marino is out. But
Mm,
these things can't be helped at all, and I think it's just part of football, and it'd be really good to see him back. And I wanted just to ask you a bit about the transfer window,
sure.
because I know a lot of fans aren't happy. I think personally we could have done a few things differently, but I wouldn't say it's been awful. Like, I think the striker for me should have been a priority, and obviously we've not really done that. And to be fair, I am happy with Sterling. I do think he will come good. Obviously, Calafiori, Marino, it'd be great to see them have more minutes as well when Marino's fit. Calafiori, I do like as well. I know we've got rid of players that we know we needed to move on. But I think the striker one is the one that I just feel a bit disappointed. I mean,
I hear that.
how do you feel about the transfer window? Do you think we've addressed the positions, or do you think we should have maybe brought a few more players in?
If you listen to me a lot, you know exactly what I'm about to say. Yeah, I've spoken about this so many times. I just, yeah, it's really tough because I suppose this really my conclusion from this window is this: it comes down to whether you personally believe that the right player was out there.
Mm,
Also defining what the issue was to fix, because the
mhm.
issue for me isn't goals, because we have enough goals.
Yeah,
So we've scored the record amount of goals, so that's not the issue. So let's define what the issue is. I've termed it a skills gap, basically, which is, I think we lack a bit of height, lack a bit of pace. I think we lack a bit of transition quality, and so on and so forth. Box
yeah,
efficiency, and I've got a boring list that people have heard a million times in my videos. But okay, so we've got a skills gap, and then is the right player out there is ultimately the question. It's basically
mm,
whether you believe that. I personally am sat there going, Victor Osimhen, I'm looking at Rafael Leao. I was looking at Marcus Rashford early in the summer, and that's a bit of a save me project. But if you get him in the right zones, and the same with everything.
yeah,
So we're watching Rafinha at Barcelona. People wrote him off. Hansi Flick's got him in the right environment. He's firing. Talent is talent. Everything else is environment and whatever. We've seen Rashford's levels anyway. I've bored people enough with my opinion on that anyway. But yeah, my point being that if you believe the right player is out there, then you will feel we missed out this summer. Arsenal didn't feel the right player was out there at the right price at the right time. And by the
mm,
way, I absolutely trust that. Who do I trust? Me or Arsenal's recruitment team? Arsenal's recruitment team, of course. They're
yeah,
professionals and I'm a YouTuber, right? So I absolutely trust that. even if I disagree and would
yeah,
go, but what about him? Why don't you like him? Then I could hear that. But then to me, this is kind of a point I made in a video the other day. It brings up a wider conversation, which is it feels like every single window we're looking for that kind of ceiling raising attacker. I don't think we've signed a forward since Jesus, who I go, and before maybe even so, who we've signed Trossard, Willian, Havertz, and Jesus. I think in the forward areas. Is that
yeah,
right? Right.
yeah. I think so.
So Willian was on a free and for me didn't seem to be the future of the position, and obviously didn't work out. But I'm saying at the time, trying to sign that ceiling raising forward, that wasn't that. Trossard seemed to be the another option instead of Mudryk, but again, 28 years old or 29 years old, whatever he is, like that's not the future of the position. Jesus is right. He's gone down, but that's one big forward sign, really ceiling raising signing in 5 years. And Havertz was signed to be played in a number of different roles. They might
Mm,
have seen him as a centre forward, but ultimately he started in midfield. So that tells you what they thought, right? So it feels to me that there's a need, and then you look at all the links. You go, right, there was big links to Vlahovic, big links to Calvert Lewin years ago. There was big links to Mudryk. There was big links to Sheshko this summer, right? Isak and all those sorts of things. We're going off reports, fine, but that's all we have. So even finding Havertz at centre forward, people go, we've got Havertz at centre forward. That's why they're not signing a forward. Well, why did they try and sign Sheshko then? Why are they looking at, even if you think it's a market opportunity, why did they think we're going to go and sign another centre forward? Clearly, there is a need at Arsenal, and the
mm,
names change relative to what's going on, but there is a need at Arsenal to go and sign that forward, and it feels like we haven't done it year in, year out. Do you know what I mean? It feels like every
yeah.
window there's just another name that comes out that isn't sort of that isn't signed. Now, what does that all mean? I don't particularly know. And that could just be a case of, you're reading so much into it and, they're just waiting for the right player. Fine. But it feels like we don't do what we want. It just feels like there's a need that we haven't met in a long time. And I don't yet understand why, basically.
Yeah, I mean, I think like we won't really know what options they have considered. We, like you said, we know the sources, we know sort of the rumors that we've heard, and
Hmm.
I think Isaac, at one point, I think Arsenal really liked him, but I think the money, how much he would have costed as well, and Newcastle. would they have let him go? Probably not. They wouldn't. They want to keep him. So I quite liked him. I mean, Tony's an interesting one. I've always liked him, but I just don't know would he fit in at Arsenal with. Not, I'm not necessarily saying his attitude is bad, but I know in interviews he's quite, open about things, and I know for a while he's wanted to move from Brentford, and instead of sort of being grateful for what
Yeah,
they've done for him. I'm not saying
yeah.
he's not grateful, but that's always how it came
No,
across.
no, no.
And
There's main character syndrome, and that's how it comes across.
yeah,
Even if that's not true for him, it's how it comes across, I think.
yeah, and I don't think that would really him and Arteta, that probably wouldn't, work great. So I can get why that wouldn't, work. But
Mm,
I think you know what, we've not really had a bad transfer window. I just think sometimes in the game, Havertz, can score, can do well, but then there's other chances that you won't take that to win the games you need to take. So I think that's why we probably need to add someone else. I mean, I really like Eze from Crystal Palace. I mean, I reckon we could probably go for him maybe in the summer. But I think he would have been a really good option as well to have, because you sort of know what to get from him, you know what type of
mm,
player he is. And but yeah, I think I'm happy that we've sort of the left back position we've sort of done. But I know Timber, we don't really know how he's going to get on throughout the season. He's had a big injury. It'll take time, and it's sort of good to have Calafiori in case he'll get game time soon. But yeah, it's interesting to see if the options, because there are options out there. I think for strikers it's a lot harder now,
mm,
to find the right players, because we have Jesus, but it's weird with Jesus. I mean, he gets injured a lot, doesn't he? And his injuries, I think, for me, have affected his confidence, and he's not really able to get us the goals that we need for the league.
mhm,
I would love him to have a good season, but it's so hard to know for him, because
mm,
I know he'll be back soon, which should be good, but he gets injured too much. I'm
mm,
like, it's you can't rely on Jesus as well, which is tough. We've got a few players that get injured quite a lot, but I would have loved a striker in the summer, if I'm being honest. But with the January transfer window, I mean, we could bring someone in then. I'd be interested to see how we do up until January. I'm really hoping that we can pick up where we left off. I mean, Brighton's happened, we move on, but we've not lost a game. It's not all doom and gloom. I think we're getting a bit frustrated. I think fans are, because I think the frustration does come from the transfer window. Because I think a lot of fans have rated it 2 out of 10, however they want to feel, but
mm.
I think the striker, if we bought a striker in, I would have gave it a bit of a higher as a number, if I'm being honest.
Who's giving it a 2 out of 10?
Oh, I've spoken to people that haven't
Oh,
been happy. Do you know
goodness.
what? I've honestly, if I'm being honest, I probably would give it a 5, because we've done good things, but I just really wanted a striker.
No, no, no. I hear that. I hear that. I hear that.
Yeah,
The thing is, the point I'm really making is like, I don't get it. Like, I don't get it. Feels like we want something and we're not getting it. And the thing
mm,
is there is also this kind of pseudo sensible position of sort of, come on, be sensible. Fans are so impatient. Bro, Arsenal have tried to sign this player for years. Like, I don't, and I'm not saying that they should have signed someone. I'm saying I don't understand what's happened. So I
yeah,
do hear, I do hear the, like, it just doesn't make sense to me. Like, from everything, or if you put together all the information, I don't. There's a story here that isn't adding up for me. But yeah, I just, yeah. Look, maybe next time we sign Isak, and that was the play we wanted all along. Great, cool. But we don't know that yet. We don't know, so we can't. So we can't sit
yeah,
here and
he
go,
is.
well, it's fine because we're going to sign. We don't know. We don't know. So
I think as well. I think it's so hard, because last season we were so close to Man City. Like, I think it was like 2 points. I think. And it's just thinking, what differences can we make this summer to close
yeah,
that gap? I mean, I do think people have wrote Liverpool off. I still think they're. I think I mean, it'd be interesting to see if they're more of a top four, if they will challenge. I mean, they'll probably want to challenge, but
mm,
I know at the moment it's sort of us and Man City. So I think it's about us sort of closing that gap between us and Man City. But I think you look at Man City, they're good without Haaland, but when Haaland's part of that team, they're just too hard to kind of come up against. But I think when we do play them, I just think Saliba has got Haaland, in his pocket. I think he knows how to deal with him. I think we're sort of one of the only teams that can really manage with Haaland, and I just think it's just us about taking our chances in the game that
mm.
we are struggling with. But I think Havertz. I do think he'll have a good season. But how many goals do you reckon Havertz can get? Because I think he could get higher than 15, but I don't know if he could get 20 goals. Like, I'm not too sure he could.
Um, Depends if he plays at centre forward the whole season. I think he probably
Mm,
will, to be honest. I'd probably go. I think he can get between 15 and 20.
yeah,
I
me
think. I honestly think though, GA 25 to 30. Like seriously, like I
yeah,
think all goals all in. If you play him at striker all season, the sample we've got is unbelievable. I, I go back to it. The issue is not output. The issue is other things. And I think we all feel that. I think we all felt that in the Brighton game personally. And I think also just
yeah,
going back to what you were saying, like, there's the kind of the force of nature that I just don't feel we have when you watch other teams. You look at Haaland and you go, we just don't have that. And that's fine. It's very hard to find. But
yeah,
yeah, go on, go find Haaland. I think going back to what you said, I think people are frustrated about the transfer window. I think that's true, but I also think there's a frustration because of City. It's like
yeah,
the neighbours on the road who've always got a nicer car than you, and they've always got you've always got a renovation project going on, and they've just got a new job, and it's that thing of like you can never,
yeah,
nothing's ever enough because they're there, and they are that to us. I think they're just they just seem like they're just this perfect machine or whatever. But the investigation's starting, I think, this month, and we should hear back something at the beginning of next year. And I really do believe that will be a huge shift. I
yeah,
think
I
that
hope so.
will. I think, but not only for the Premier League this season, but a change for English football. It's going to be massive. It's going to be absolutely massive. So there is again, just to try and explain and understand what I was saying earlier. Maybe there's a world that Arsenal thought, look, we're not going to do anything this summer because we know what's coming down the line. Maybe.
I think you did make a good point about Man City because I was watching when they played West Ham actually, and there's always a part of you that will hope they'll lose, but they always find a way to win. And I think that's what's frustrating because if Man City didn't have Haaland, I think a lot of us would feel more relaxed about
Mm,
what we've done. But I think because they've got Haaland, they've sort of got a one up against us a lot of the time. We've got great players, Havertz, Jesus, they're very good players, but they're not Haaland. So I think it's just very draining, isn't it, when you watch Man
yeah.
City doing so well, and we've dropped points, which I think is fine. But it's early on, and I do think we'll pick ourselves back up from this. I mean, I think the Spurs game, if we win that, fans happy again. So
Mm,
I think it's just I always say you got to take it each game at a time because you just don't know what's going to happen. Man City they could drop a few points against some teams, and you just don't know. So I think we've really got to sort of take each game as it comes. But yeah, it's just frustrating the fact they've got Hall and Gundogan as well. It's draining watching them. I only watch them unless they're losing, but they always find a way to come back. It's
mm,
it's it's really draining.
yeah.
But, Alex, I wanted to thank you so much for coming on today. It's been so good to chat with you
Pleasure.
again. I really appreciate it.
Loved it. Thank you so much, Sophie. Appreciate it. Anytime.
Oh, thank you so much. Fingers crossed we'll do well. We can win the league this season. It would be great to have that one over against Man City and do it. But yeah, to those that might want to find you as well, I know you do the Canon podcast as well. Do you want to just tell people a bit about that and so they can give you a follow or that?
Yeah, sure. So you can, if you type it on YouTube, if you're on YouTube now, The Different Knock, you'll find me in my main channel. There's also The Different Knock Live, which is our live channel. And then I'm also on the Canon podcast with George Vutsas and Babs Kapoor.
Love that. Yeah, it's amazing. I love those podcasts that you do.
Oh,
It's
thank you.
absolutely amazing. Yeah.
Thank you.
I think you've got a good, connection with you guys, and it's just nice to I always think it's just nice to hear people chat about Arsenal because you can just
Yeah.
talk for ages. Like
Yeah.
it's
Yeah. Yeah.
absolutely crazy. But yeah,
It's great.
please do subscribe, check out their channel. But yeah, guys, I hope you have enjoyed this. I have enjoyed this. It's gone so quick, but it's nice to chat about Arsenal on the break, knowing that we don't need to stress too right now. It's Spurs coming up, and yeah, it's going to be a good game, definitely. But yeah, thank you all so much for watching us back. I hope you all have enjoyed this. Don't forget to smash that like button too. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you all very soon. Bye.